Welcome, everyone. My name is Jessica Desardin. I am a program coordinator in the Office of Community Engagement. We are thrilled to be back for the February edition of the C Spotlight series. I'd like to begin with a statement from the Office of Community Engagement. We wish to acknowledge the Indigenous people who are past and present stewards of the land on which we pursue our just cause of improving health for all. I'd also like to recognize MCW's values: caring, collaborative, curiosity, inclusive, integrity, and respect. These values guide us in all our endeavors. It is our goal and expectation that the entire session, including the chat interactions, will reflect these shared values. Please note this session is being recorded, and please be sure you remain unmute throughout the presentation. We encourage everyone to use the chat bar to share comments or post questions for our guests throughout the session. We will monitor the chat and address questions and comments accordingly. This monthly series features community partners and the important work they are doing. We highlight their goals, motivations, and accomplishments, and the ways they have partnered with people and programs at the Medical College of Wisconsin. At this time, I would like to now introduce our Senior Associate Dean for Community Engagement, Dr. Stacy Young, who will say a few words about our featured guest. Dr. Young?
Great. Thanks so much, Jessica. Good afternoon, everyone. And I have to say, great song selection. That song always brings a smile to my face. So really enjoyed that and excited for today's spotlight. I have the honor to introduce today's featured guest, Brad Schlaikowski. Brad is the co-founder and executive director of Courage Plus. Courage Plus is a nonprofit organization dedicated to creating safe, affirming communities for LGBTQ plus youth and young adults while driving meaningful systemic change. Brad's dedication to advocacy and his unwavering commitment to dignity, inclusion, and belonging continue to guide Courage Plus as it builds a future where LGBTQ plus youth are safe, supported, and celebrated. Thank you, Brad, for being our featured guest today. I would now like to welcome today's facilitator, Dr. Catherine Quinn. Dr. Quinn is an associate professor of psychiatry and behavioral medicine here at the Medical College of Wisconsin, and she's also the director of the Center for Community Health and Intervention Research here at MCW. As a public health researcher, her work centers on the intersections of HIV prevention, social and structural determinants of health, and the health of sexual and gender minority communities. Thank you, Dr. Quinn, for being our facilitator today. I now turn the session over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Young. And thank you, Jessica, for getting us started. So before I jump in and ask Brad some questions, I just want to share with all of you how Brad and I met and started working together, just to give you some background on that. So Brad came to us at MCW on a panel we had at the Center for AIDS Intervention Research about 3 years ago. We invited some community leaders here to talk to us about the work that they're doing in the communities and some of the biggest needs and opportunities that their communities were experiencing right now. And this is a great way for us as researchers to make sure that what we're doing in research aligns with community priorities. It gives us new opportunities for collaboration, some new research ideas. And so Brad came and talked to us about the work that he was doing at Courage. And I was really inspired listening to Brad talk. And so through that, I ended up joining the board. I'm still a member of the board of directors for Courage Plus. And that's given me a chance really to get to know Brad and the work that Courage does and identify opportunities for us to work together. So we'll talk a little bit more later about a current grant and project that we have going on right now. But I'm very honored to be able to be here with Brad today, to give him a chance to talk about Courage. If you're not familiar with Courage, I hope that you leave this session feeling inspired, just like I was, to support their work and to get involved. And if you've been following Courage for a long time, I think Brad has some really exciting new initiatives to share, and I hope you'll be similarly inspired and impressed with the new work that they're continuing to do. So it is such a gift to be here to do today with you, Brad. So thank you. Why don't you start by just introducing us to Courage Plus and telling us the how and the why behind what you do every day.
Sure. Well, thank you for all that. That was so lovely. And thank you, Jessica, and everyone for MCW for making this happen. This is pretty incredible. We need more of this throughout our community, right? So what a special day for us. Um, uh, uh, Courage, how we started Courage, right? That's where we're at, right, Catherine? Holy, my husband and I have been together for almost like 14 years about, and we decided that we wanted to start a family of our own, and uh, I literally Googled cheap adoptions one day, and the foster to adopt program happened to come up. So we became licensed foster parents through Children's, and that journey was an incredible journey. And at the time, our daughter is now about to be 13, 45, one of those two, I'm not sure. But when she came to us, she was 18 months, and those familiar with the foster community. If you have one child in the room, they're going to call you with another child. So they started to call us with teenage girls who identified as LGBTQ plus. And I'm sorry, I'm seeing so many familiar faces from the community, and it means so much to me that you're here. Thank you all for being here. We started taking these teenagers in, and they all had a similar story, and they were heartbreaking, of rejection and bullying and tormenting from those that they lived with at a shelter, or they couldn't get into a shelter, or those they lived within a group home. And my husband and I never worked in nonprofit, but we decided that these kids needed to have their own house. So at the time, he did drag, and we were starting with the gay community, and we needed the gay community to know what the problem was in our own backyard. That there are so many kids in the out of home care that needed us to even just know that they existed. And in 2 short years, our community, whether they were part of the LGBT community or not, made it possible for us to purchase the first Courage House in 2018 with cash. And we opened that house in 2019. And the journey has been far beyond what we expected since, right? Um, do you want me to keep going from there, Catherine, or do you want to pause there?
We can pause here. I mean, I think that's a really great start. And what I love about it, and like what is inspiring to me, and I think to so many, is that you and Nick were just two parents who saw a need in the community and created courage to address that need. And I think so often we see, all of us, right, see needs in our community, we see injustices or system failures and feel a little bit helpless to do anything about it. And you guys are this incredible example of what any of us could do. And I think it's just really important to acknowledge that. And I just want to thank you for your willingness to do that hard work and take those risks. And here you are 10 years later.
10
And
years.
what an incredible journey, and impact you've had on our community. So thank you to both of you.
And I need to pause you there for a
Yes, go
second
here.
because when we started that, right, we started with Courage MKE, right? And that story, that Courage MKE story is an important story in the legacy of this organization and what we've done and what we're doing with youth across the state. But last year we had the pleasure of working with Bader Rudder to rebrand our name, right? I like to say the Courage MKE story was the Brad and Nick story a long time ago. I understand the importance of that story, but there has been thousands of people that have had their part of this story and part of this journey and part of this movement that's why we needed to add that plus. We needed to make it an equation because it takes all of us to take care of these kids. So we're so excited to be on this journey with all of you because these kids need all of us. So yes, thank you for that.
And that's a great acknowledgement too, that the name change is recent, right? And now is not Courage MKE, but it's Courage
It's
Plus.
Courage Plus.
I want to touch on something that I saw in the slideshow that people may not know a lot about, which I saw a lot of photos from the bed exhibit that and art installation that you did last
Uh-huh.
year. Can you just talk a little bit about that so people know what those beds were about and representing?
Absolutely. I need to give credit to our friends at Bader Rudder. It's a marketing firm here in Milwaukee. They have taken us under their wing and have been so good to us. And when they said they wanted to help, I said we needed help with our name change. The team at Vader and all of their creative minds got together with a bunch of folks from MyAd, with lived experience that share experiences with some of our kids. And if you notice, those were all beds. And those beds are made out of cardboard. And the series is called Unsheltered, and each one of those beds has a story from the artist of what of everything, every piece of the design of it. And one of my favorite outcomes from that is we had them out in the community for about 2 weeks, and they started a lot of conversations because folks would come up to the bed and they would start asking folks around, well, what happens if it rains? These are going to become soggy, these are going to be destroyed. And I guess that was the intent, right? Because then we could turn to them and say, are you asking that same question when it's a child sitting in the rain versus just a piece of cardboard? And that was the biggest takeaway from that art installation.
Love that. I just wanted to make sure people knew what they were seeing when they saw those
Yes.
photos on the screen. So thank you. Um, I want to talk a little bit about the youth that you serve.
Mhm.
On the one hand, we know that queer and trans youth face numerous social and structural challenges just navigating this world. And then there's also the stigma that the community puts on youth in foster care and in group homes. But I also know that they exhibit incredible resilience and have gifts and talents they want to share with the world, and are incredible resources and sources of love and support for one another. And so I'd love if you could just talk to us about the youth that you see at Courage Plus, both in terms of the challenges they face and also how you've seen them navigate those challenges and thrive in the face of adversity.
Absolutely. And thank you for that. So for everyone, we operate two different houses. One house is for youth that are ages 12 to 17, and those children come through us through the social welfare system with a referral, whether it's through foster care or the juvenile justice system. And then the second house, which is C2 apartment, which has now been open for 2 years, is for those aging out of the social welfare system, right? Or already experiencing homelessness. But when we start with the Courage House, the group home, from the moment those children walk in, there are two things that those kids have in common with each other. One, they don't want to be there. And two, they didn't ask to be there, right? They are there because of some unfortunate situation, neglect, abuse, or something, or rejection from their family, right? And there's no place more than they want to be than their house. So we try to build on that, right? We try to build on what can chosen family look like if we can't be with our regular family? And when we talk about internally, when things show up at our doorstep, who brought this here? It wasn't a donor that dropped that off. It was one of our Courage family members, right? Because our community is our family. But oftentimes within the social welfare system, those assigned male at birth are placed in facilities for male assigned at birth people, and same with female. And that includes group homes. Um, but that doesn't work in our house because our kids are adolescent teens that are trying to figure themselves out from head to toe. Are they gay? Are they straight? Are they trans? Are they not trans? They don't know yet, right? So often, that's what's the best thing about the Courage House. Folks have always asked us, well, why this is discriminating against straight kids? Well, there's 259 other group homes within our state, right? Children within the system have so much trauma that we have to work with. And our job as the provider is to help navigate that trauma and how they can navigate life with having that trauma under their belt. And if we can give them a house that allows them to lower that wall and be whoever they are from the moment they wake up to the moment their eyes close, that's one less wall that we have to chip through. And we can just start working on that trauma versus telling them you were born a boy, you are a boy, right? Because our kids men oftentimes come to our group home from long-term facilities, from group homes, from other facilities saying, I've been pinned down by staff saying that I am a boy and I'm not really a boy. You know, one of my favorite stories from the first year that we opened, I was still working my corporate job, and our house supervisor at the time sent me a video of a trans young lady that had just moved in the day before, and she had never been allowed to wear her wigs or her makeup or her dresses. And we have a clothing closet that our kids can choose whatever they want from, and we don't care what they pick from it. And she literally picked out the brightest yellow dress that next morning, and they had a video of her twirling on our front porch, and the sun was just hitting her just right. And she was living her best life because she got to wear the dress. So when oftentimes we say give them the dress around here, that means let them be who they are. I mean, what is that hurting anyone? If that poor child who's been in a system for 17 years finally has this big smile on their face, I'll buy 20 dresses 20 times over. Does that make sense?
Oh, you're going to make me cry really early on in this conversation.
Sorry.
Um, yes, no, that's fantastic, and I think it's a really beautiful example of the impact that you all have
Yeah.
on kids. Um, you're doing a lot of exciting stuff right now in
Yeah.
2026. You have a lot of new initiatives, exciting updates to share. Um, what is on deck for Courage this year?
Well, we have a few things coming up right now. We just um, in the way our world works right now, we realize that we need to get creative in the way we're going to support the LGBT community. Funding is being cut. We see that everywhere. And we're really proud to be able to share that we're partnering with other nonprofits. And one of them right now is the Guest House in Milwaukee. The Guest House is a men's shelter here. They do amazing work, but they also have a house on their property called Marsha's House. And it started with for just trans homeless folks, but now it's for LGBT homeless folks. The Marsha's House is going to remain under the guest house umbrella. However, we're going to partner with them and take over the programming of it. We're going to bring our C2 model, which was shared with us from the Ali Forney Center in New York, and bring that and help provide the folks that live at Marsha's house with those independent living skills so that they too can prepare and be ready to proudly live on their own, to not have someone tell them what to eat, where to sleep, or who to trust ever again because they can confidently say they did it on their own. Some of the
Incredible
other big
partnership.
things,
That's very cool.
we're very excited about that one. Some of the one of the bigger ones is where the plus came in and where you help us with
Yeah,
is
let's
this
talk about Plus You.
Plus you is our community facing programming, right? So long we were just this Milwaukee group home. Courage is just a group home, but for so long we've heard from youth across the state, especially in these rural communities. We have contracts with 20 different counties and tribal communities across the state, right? And so those children are telling us that there's no resources. If we look at Wisconsin, our furthest county is way up here. It's 5 hours, right? Through the help of our lovely Catherine and our friends at MCW, we were all awarded a grant through Advancing Healthier Wisconsin this past summer, which is going to allow us to have 5 different satellite locations throughout the state to provide our Plus U programming, it's not just a regular go to a group, state your name and state your problem, right? This is a group for anyone with queer kids in their life, coaches, dentists, doctors, anyone that just wants to better understand the queer kids in their lives. And we're partnering with community LGBT community centers across the state, so we don't have to have that expense of paying rent anywhere. But so there's that, and then we can also offer our youth groups out in those areas. But another big piece is there's no data on our community for our state. And through your experience with your research, we're going to be able to start collecting some data and to really understand where these kids are and what these kids need. I'm 46. I like to think I know what these kids need, but let's be honest, right? It's been a long time since I've
Young
been
at
a
heart.
teenager. I'm really that's the part of Plus U I'm really excited about is to start talking to kids that don't get the experience to be in front of folks like us and to hear them and to be heard, right? Because they're so far away from everything right now. That's one of the biggest. We just hired our manager that's going to start allowing us to hire our facilitators out there, and it's going to take off pretty quickly.
It's such an exciting way to and creative way, I think, too, to expand the work you're doing in Milwaukee to other places, right? Like you can't build or operate houses in every county, but there are ways that we can help adults to be better support people to the queer young people in their lives, right? And I think that you
Absolutely.
really identified this way that you, again, like you see this need and have been able to respond to it across the state. And I'm really excited to see what happens with that. Not just because I am excited about the data, but that too. But it'll be really neat to see the impact on that and the ways that you can expand beyond what you've already been doing.
Yep. And then the last big one is our Brave Space program.
Yeah, tell us
Um,
about Brave Space.
Brave Space is at any electronic device. It puts access to LGBT services, organizations, and other organizations that just happen to be a safe space. If they're in danger, they can duck in. So they go to bravespace.me, they enter their zip code, and it lists anyone that is registered and how many miles they are from that zip code, right? We ask for their age. It's not required. We're just looking for more data. But anyone across the state, and actually this is bleeding into Minneapolis, Chicago, Iowa, Michigan, and Toronto right now. There's organizations. Anyone can become a Brave Maker if you go to bravespace.me and you want your organization listed for anyone in the queer community, specifically queer youth, to use and to have as a resource. Please go and sign up. We vet everyone that comes through and signs up. And then we provide you with a Brave Maker kit and information on what that looks like.
Wait, can you say more about that? Like, what does a Brave Maker kit look like? What would
A
an
Brave
organization
Maker
need?
kit provides you with stickers and collateral as well as information. So like let's say that you're a coffee shop. You're not a queer coffee shop, but you're a coffee shop that just
Mhm.
cares about humans. And if someone's in danger, that yes, they should just duck into you. We're providing them with information on what to do if someone should duck, if someone is in danger, right? Of course, it's pretty easy, right? We need to get the law enforcement involved and everything like that. But it talks about you're dealing with a human with real emotions right now.
Mhm.
Comfort that person, right? And we need to address that child. This is a child most of the time that we're going to be dealing with. Um, there's some fun things in there, that come with each kit. Some of them are different than the others, but it's just our way of saying thank you for helping be part of this community and show that these kids have people that care, even when the world is saying there's not.
What I think is really important, and I just want to clarify for everyone too, that the places on Brave Space are not just LGBTQ plus resource centers, right? It can be anyone who wants to have and create an inclusive, safe space for queer youth,
Absolutely.
right? That's fantastic.
We have dentists, we have flower shops, we have doctors' offices, we have everyone, A to Z.
I love that. So that is helpful to give us a sense of some of the new exciting expansion work that you all are doing. You've been doing this for 10 years.
10
We
years.
Courage just got to celebrate its 10-year anniversary. What do you know now that you didn't know when you opened that first Courage House? What have you learned along the way?
Um, my coming out journey isn't much older than Courage itself, right? I have only been out as a human for 14 years. Um,
Mhm.
I had a wonderful life with a family and children, and I came out late. But what I've learned now, 10 years later, is that there's a hell of a lot more love in this state than anyone is given credit for, and that we don't do a good enough job of celebrating that or highlighting that within our own communities. We couldn't do we don't receive federal funding at Courage. We never have. In fact, for the last 9 years, I've probably said some unfavorable things, and because I was frustrated that we couldn't get grants from the feds, right? But this past year, it's been a blessing. Our organization is funded by smaller grants and probably 49% from average everyday Joes like you and I, right? And that that is a hug that no one can replace. That is a hug that no one can describe. And when we started this 10 years ago, we thought we were opening one house. And it's that, like I said earlier, thousands of people have said, let's keep going together. Um, I didn't think we would be where we are right now. I never thought we would be where we are. I never thought we'd be expanding across 72 counties.
Mhm.
Um, and that just has nothing to do with Nick, myself, or everyone that works in this office. I'm excited for the kids in our state to have it.
It's a lot of hope, or it gives me a lot of hope. I think just especially when things otherwise can seem really hard.
Yeah,
And I think it says a lot that all of this work is, or a lot of this work is funded and supported at such a small level, right? At such an individual level, and
absolutely.
um, by individual volunteers who are really the backbone of a lot of the work that you're able to do, which is pretty incredible and speaks a lot to the community that you've created and the culture that you've created at Courage.
Yes, it's incredible. It is incredible. One of the other parts that we never knew that would be happening was we remain to be the only group home in the state that has our own on-call crisis team. And when we think about the trauma that these kids go through and the fear, I can't imagine being 12 and every, month or two being asked to move to a different home and to trust a different group of an adults. But our on-call crisis team, they're required to do monthly activities with our kids, and it's not to just to have an activity, it's to build rapport and trust so that when there is an escalated crisis, our crisis team can be at our Courage House or our C2 apartments in 15 minutes or less to a familiar face to take them outside or to take them to a separate room and to help them de-escalate. It has been years since we've had needed to call the police or the county mental health team, or to send a child to the county mental health facility because of our amazing staff and frontline staff and our crisis stabilizers and the work that they're doing with their trauma-informed mindsets. Um, that those are programs that in the future, whether I'm here or not, I would love to see our crisis stabilizer program be able to receive the funding enough to offer that to other
Mm,
children because
huge.
um, it's a scary thing to be in out of home care as a child. And if you have these
Mhm.
consistent people, that's what these children need is just the consistency. And if we can all do that for them, let's do it.
Yeah. Can you speak more to the like so you've mentioned a couple times just like the trauma and the challenges that the youth
Yeah,
you see face, and you've just given us a little bit of insight with this crisis stabilizer program. Can you talk a little bit more just about like the structure of like resources and support that these kids get, and sort of what happens
sure.
if someone's at C2 or at Courage House?
Sure. So when children move in, right, there's this whole, vetting process, and then like everything, there's a honeymoon phase, and everyone's excited, right? But then the real work starts. Like the trauma comes back, and the trauma never leaves, but it becomes present, and um, we work with their case management teams to take them to therapy. Right? Our staff is not there to be. Our staff is not their therapist. Our staff is meant to be home. Period. End of sentence. Be home. There was a time where our staff were getting upset when they were breaking curfew, coming home at 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever. But then we would take a step back and say, but they came home, right? They felt safe enough to not only come home, they felt safe enough to come home knowing that they still broke a rule and they weren't going to have a repercussion just because they were late, right? Our job is get up something to eat, put them to bed, and let's have that conversation in the morning, just like we would at our own house, right? And that's the vision that Nick and I had. This should be like a house for these kids. But so, when you're opening a group home, some of the guidance you receive is if a child escalates, call the police or call the mobile crisis team. For many of these kids, a police officer and a social worker probably are the two people that removed them from their home and that relationship is just a damaged one. So we work very closely with District 2 here where we're located here in Milwaukee, on what it means. We understand what it means when a police officer walks up to you like this. You see my hands, I see yours, right? But for a 12-year-old and a 6'5" guy standing like this, that's really intimidating. I'm so proud of District 2 for being receptive and listening to us and asking us how they can better serve the youth so that we're not putting a 12-year-old in a hog-tied handcuff, right? So that we're not hauling a 13-year-old off to county mental health, so that we're all working together for the betterment of this child to keep them in this safe place where the staff truly care about them. Over the past 5 months, not finally, but we partnered with Ellie Mental Health that our kids no longer have to leave the house for therapy. Ellie Mental Health is coming and providing on-site therapy, right? Which is just makes it that much easier for them to be truly and authentically themselves in a safe environment. Um, with a therapist in their own home. So it's little things like that that we keep trying to add to our programming that make
Yeah.
it easier for our kids to process the trauma versus making it pulling teeth, if that makes sense.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I love what you were saying about, the role of mental health and policing and even social work and what that means. And I think your ability as an organization and for you as a leader to be able to communicate that to the right people and to train and to teach and to help change those systems is really pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So you talked about that, and then you also before were telling us about Guest House,
Yes.
which is another really fantastic collaboration you have. I'm wondering if you can just talk a little bit more about like other collaborations you have, or unique things like that you've done, those partnerships, either in Milwaukee or across the state. And then I also know that you've had some really great collaborations across the country. And so if you can talk to us about what that has looked like, I think that would be really helpful.
Absolutely. Well, our C2 Apartments started as from a collaboration, right?
Yeah.
We learned about the Ali 40 Center, which is the nation's largest nonprofit serving the queer 18-24 homeless population. They have a program called it's a mentorship program, and um, they accepted us and about 12 other small nonprofits like us into it. And every March we all go to New York, and now they're taking it on the road. Last year they came to Milwaukee to see C2, but their program works, right? They have shelter from literal drop-in shelter, and it moves up levels to be like C2. Our C2 Apartments an apartment is a program that has an apartment, not an apartment that has some programming, if that helps everyone understand a little bit. So our kids, our young adults, excuse me, move up in tiers, right? We start with basics. Get your ID, get your insurance, get your EBT card, and get a job and a bank account and a savings account. And then we keep building from there. They don't pay rent, but they have to save 20% of their check and show that in their case management. So when they move out, they have anywhere from $7,000 to $14,000 saved on their own. And this is the program that helps move over to our friends at Marsha's house, right? We know that we have to make some edits to our program because we're moving into more adult roles, right? And there's some more complex mental health issues that come with that, and we're working with our partners at the guest house for that. But the other partnerships that we really have been excited about is part of that Plus U program. The other part of Plus U is our external trainings. So we have how to be an ally training, LGBT 101, Trans 101, and all of those are customized to organizations. We worked with a church in Whitefish Bay that up until a year and a half ago, they were not accepting of the queer community, and they wanted training. So we created a 6-week training that we went on every Wednesday. The leadership team, we divided and conquered with our facilitator, and we took turns going. And you walked into a room with 20 to 50 folks in there, average age, maybe 65 plus, that wanted to learn, right? That is the generation that they have been taught that don't exist or we shouldn't exist, right? And you have so many people that that we're asking questions, and we've created an environment for them to ask the questions that they've never been able to ask. That is how we build community back and how we dismantle misinformation. But
Yeah.
the similar experiences with dentist office and a Waukesha County events team for Waukesha and Pewaukee. They want to make their all of their events in their communities more inclusive and what they should look for if someone's in danger. When we have folks like that reaching out to make sure that
Mhm.
communities who historically aren't inclusive are becoming inclusive, I don't care what we see on the news, change is happening, and it's a good change.
Yeah. I also really love, and someone mentioned it in the chat too, about this idea of collaboration rather than competition between agencies. And I think this is such a fun example of that, where like the Alley Forney Center had this program that we know works, right? And they were willing to mentor Courage as this small organization in Milwaukee, rather than being like, oh no, this is our area, right? Like this is ours.
Absolutely.
And now you're saying, oh, we've figured this out, and now we can apply it to our partnership with Guest House, right? And we can take what we've learned in these other spaces and apply it, rather than just trying to say, like, no, this is just ours. And working in, competition with those other organizations. And I think when you talk about community, that's what I really think of. It's like, how do we create this where we're supporting one another at an organizational level so that we're all supporting these kids, right?
Absolutely.
And your willingness to partner with anyone, right? Like your dentist office and the police department,
Anyone,
and it's admirable.
everyone and anyone, right? If it's going to give someone knowledge that works with children, especially queer children, then we're all making a difference. And especially when we partner together as nonprofit organizations, you know, the only thing that we compete for as nonprofits really are dollars, right? Let's just
Yeah.
state the obvious. But this nonprofit may have 25,000 followers, and this one might have 20,000 followers. And there might be some gray area in between the two, but if we can find ways to work together, we can stretch our dollars further and educate double the amount of people on both sides and make a larger impact. But that's coming more and more often, right? We all have to take that step back, look in the mirror ourselves, lower our own egos, and be like, we can do this, right? And myself included, I won't deny, I won't put myself out of that group. But when we do that, we make a bigger difference, and it makes it so much worth it.
Love that. As we start to wrap up, I just want to encourage anyone listening, if you have questions that you want to throw in the chat, I have sort of one last main question for Brad. But if you have questions, please put them in the chat and I would be happy to ask them. My question for you, Brad, really is, as we wrap up, how can folks get involved?
Mhm.
What do you need from the community right now? How can people support? And
Sure.
if they're sort of feeling as inspired as I was the first time I got to really hear you talk about courage, what can we do?
Let's start with some easy ones right now. Everyone, I hope you're enjoying your lunch. I hope it's delicious. Pull out your handheld device. We are on Facebook. We are on LinkedIn. We are on Instagram. Follow us. Because when you share our information, there might be a child that sees it when you share it that we haven't been able to reach, right? That's number one. Number two, again, the obvious, right? We are a nonprofit organization, and like all other nonprofits, we don't survive without the generosity of the community. So on our website, courageplus.org, there's of course a place to donate. But there are events throughout the city, organizations that throw events as fundraisers for us that we don't even know about sometimes. But especially within the next couple of months, you're going to see a lot of them coming out because Pride Month is coming. But there was a picture of it. Our spring event is coming on May 16th, Bravery and Bloom. It's to highlight young queer artists and give them a place to show their art and sell their art. But that is art of poetry, painting, clay, theater, singing, any kind of art, right? Our board of directors this year is creating a family style fundraiser for us this summer, so stay tuned for that. And then our annual gala will be on October 30th this year. And without giving too much away, let's just say there's a little bit of masquerade theme to it, and we're pretty excited. But
And it's very fun every year.
absolutely,
One of my
absolutely.
favorite events of the year.
It is. It's when all the family comes. It's the biggest family reunion in town, I guess. I don't know. But the things that also help us is, a lot of times offices want to do something together. So when there are non-perishable food drives that happen for either house, that takes off of us spending out of our budget, right? And I think that most of us have a teenager somewhere in our life. If it's something a teenager eats, we take it, and it's pretty easy. And they don't always get the junk food, but when they do, they love it. So it's easy things like that. We're working on filling a brand new Courage house because we're about to move in about a month. We bought a larger one. We have a wish
Can't
list.
believe we didn't even talk about that.
Oh, so yes, the Courage House is moving next month. Our wonderful friend Sam Smith, the singer, gave us a grant to create a sensory room in that house. So there will
That's very
be
cool.
a therapeutic sensory room in that house, the first of its kind here in the state, we're told. So we're going from 5 kids to 8 kids. So we have a lot of space to fill in that house. So we do have a wish list on our website, our Amazon wish list. But take a look at our website. There's so much information. And if you're not able to give, we understand that. The best thing that you could help us do is tell a friend. Tell a friend that
Mhm.
we exist because our kids need you.
Yeah. I have, I mean, thank you all for joining us and for your really lovely comments in the chat. David Nelson has asked us to come back for an encore, which I would be happy to do, especially to be able to share more about the exciting things that you're doing at some point. One of the questions, though, that I do want to just clarify, is it appropriate to share the Brave Space app yet? We have a lot of connections to community partners that I think would love to get involved across the state. We can go ahead and share that.
Yeah.
Great.
The bravespace.me.
Yeah. Yes, we're good to you're actively accepting new
Oh, absolutely.
organizations and stuff.
I
Okay.
think there is a post on our Facebook and Instagram page
Yeah, I
today.
was just gonna say I just saw it this morning. I feel like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so again, if you can, I think one of the best places to start is to follow Courage Plus on LinkedIn, on Instagram, or Facebook. That's the best way to hear a lot about what they have done. Jessica has done a great job of linking to the website, ways to help, contact information, and resources. Brad just shared the Brave Space website. So there's a lot of ways to at least initially get yourself started and get involved. Thank you, Brad, so much for all of the work you do, your partnership with us here at MCW. We are, incredibly lucky to be able to work with you and to be able to join forces to continue this work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Jai, if you want to share the final slides for everyone, that would be great. So again, this presentation was recorded, and a recording of this presentation will be posted on the website. You can also Google MCW CE Spotlight to find that. Here is a QR code that you can also use to scan to learn more and to support Courage Plus. Thank you all for joining us today. Jessica also put a feedback survey in the chat, and then March 18th is our next CE Spotlight. So please consider joining that to learn more about the Milwaukee Community Land Trust.
Amazing.
And thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you all for having us.